Okay, so you guys sent us a lot of requests to cover How Not to Age by Dr. Michael Greger. So
Oh, yeah.
we dove right in and looks like a fascinating book, so let's get right to it.
Sounds good.
So the big takeaway that really grabbed my attention from this book is how it really breaks down
Yeah.
how our bodies age,
No.
like at a cellular level,
Right.
and what we can actually do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not just about living longer, but living healthier for longer,
I
right?
get that.
That's what he calls the health span.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really great way to put it. It's not just tacking on years to the end of your life, but actually making sure that those years are ones where you can still be active and enjoy things and not be burdened with a lot of
Right.
chronic disease.
Yeah, and it turns out that this feeling we all get, like that feeling of inevitable decline, that,
Mhm.
I'm getting older,
Yeah,
this is just what happens.
right.
It might not be so inevitable after all.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
right. One of the things that I found so interesting about this book is the way that he really digs into the science.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes really deep into the research literature. And basically what he's saying is
All right.
that the deterioration that we associate with getting older, wrinkles and
Yeah.
just kind of feeling less vibrant.
Sure.
It's not just a matter of time passing.
Okay.
There are actually these specific biological processes happening
Yeah.
that are driving that. And those are things that we can actually influence.
Okay, so it's not just the clock ticking.
Right.
What are these processes? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so he outlines what he calls like the 11 pathways of aging.
Okay.
And these are kind of like interconnected activities that are happening within our cells all the time. And so, for example, we have things like oxidative stress.
Okay.
So you can think about that as like your cells are constantly being bombarded with these unstable molecules that are causing damage, sort of like little sparks, causing wear and tear over time. And then you have DNA damage, where literally the blueprint of our cells is accumulating these errors over time.
Oh, wow.
And then there's inflammation, which is, it's a normal process, but it can become kind of a chronic, a low-grade issue that contributes to aging.
Okay.
And then another one that he talks about that I thought was really fascinating is cellular senescence.
Cellular senescence.
Yeah. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
Okay, so these are cells that have become damaged or stressed.
Uh-huh.
And instead of dying off neatly, like they're supposed to,
Right.
they kind of linger and they become what he calls these zombie cells.
Zombie cells, I love it.
Yeah, and they release these compounds that can trigger inflammation
Oh.
and damage the surrounding healthy tissue. So it's like they're causing trouble even though they're not really functioning properly anymore.
So they're not doing their job, but they're also kind of messing things up for everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that he talks about how our diet might actually offer some ways to help manage these cells.
Okay, so so what can we eat to help with this?
Yeah, so he points to this compound called quercetin.
Quercetin.
Yeah, it's a natural compound that's found in foods like onions and apples
Okay.
and kale. And it turns out that research is suggesting that quercetin has these properties called senolytic properties, which means it can help the body actually clear out
Wow.
these senescent cells.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So, by incorporating these really common foods into your diet, you could potentially be having an impact on this aging pathway.
I love that that's like a very tangible takeaway, right?
Exactly.
Like I can go eat some kale today.
Yeah.
And I can feel good about the fact that I'm fighting off these zombie cells.
That's right.
So the book also talks about this concept of autophagy, which sounds like it's another really crucial process.
Absolutely. So autophagy is basically your cell's internal recycling program.
Okay.
So it's constantly breaking down and removing damaged components. And that's essential for keeping the cells healthy and preventing this buildup of harmful debris. And so one of the things that Dr. Greger suggests is that we can boost this process by eating foods that are rich in this compound called spermidine.
Spermidine, okay.
Yeah. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, so it's found in things like tempeh and mushrooms and even wheat germ.
Okay.
And so, these are all things that are pretty readily available, and they can really help support your body's natural cleanup mechanisms.
I love how these are all kind of affordable, accessible solutions, right? We're not talking about some crazy experimental treatment here.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about his approach is that he's really focused on things that people can actually do in their everyday lives.
Absolutely. And I remember he even talks about like DIY skincare approaches and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, he has this whole section on like how you can make your own skin serum using like food-based ingredients.
Which I love.
Yeah.
So it's all about kind of taking control of your own health and beauty in a way.
And empowering people to understand that, you know, a lot of the things that they're spending money on, you know, these expensive creams and treatments, they could be doing a lot of this stuff at home with simple ingredients.
And he also looks at like real world examples, right?
Yeah.
He talks about the blue zones, these populations known for their longevity and health.
Yeah. One of the things that he does really well is connect the science to these real world examples. And so, you know, these blue zones are places where people are living, you know, well into their 90s and 100s.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in a way that's, you know, they're still active and healthy. And what's interesting is that their lifestyles really validate a lot of these biological mechanisms that he's talking about.
So what are some of the things that they're doing that are...
Yeah, so they have these predominantly plant-based diets.
Okay.
They're getting regular movement. They have strong social connections.
Yeah.
They manage their stress well. All of these things actually align with the science that he's presenting.
So it's not just theory. It's actually like...
Right. It's not just theory. It's like actually happening.
Proven out in the real world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So for our listener out there who, you know, is listening to this and thinking, okay, this is all very interesting.
Right.
I want to take some proactive steps in how I age.
Yeah.
What would you say is the main message of this deep dive into Dr. Greger's work?
I think the big takeaway here is that aging is not just this passive process that, you know, we're just sort of along for the ride. By understanding these fundamental cellular pathways that are happening and making informed choices about our diet and lifestyle, you know, prioritizing these nutrient-rich foods that support things like autophagy and that help manage these senescent cells, we actually have a lot of agency in shaping how we age.
We can take control.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's so empowering.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's so exciting about this book is that it gives you a very science-backed guide for how to actually implement these changes.
It's not just telling you what to do, it's telling you why you should do it.
Exactly, and how it's actually working on a cellular level.
I love it. Okay, so we've explored the cellular landscape of aging with Dr. Greger's How Not to Age.
We have.
We've uncovered some really practical, evidence-based strategies.
Yes.
Now, for you, the listener, considering these biological mechanisms we've discussed, what small actionable step could you take right now today to start, you know, gently guiding your body towards a longer, healthier life?
I love that.
Something to think about, right?
It is definitely something to think about.
All right. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive
Absolutely.
on How Not to Age.